Welcome, everyone, to It Tastes Different Gaming. I'm going to need you guys to go ahead and, but before we get started, let's go ahead and like and subscribe to this video, and so we can just jump right on into the content. So I'll give you a few minutes to like and subscribe, and then make sure to hit that bell for notification when we upload new videos. We upload 3 times a week, game reviews, general gaming topics, and then gaming news from the past week. So let's just jump right on into it. So what's on the menu for dinner tonight? We have the ramen that somebody boiled and forgot to include the seasoning packet with Biomutant. Biomutant was developed by Experiment 101 and published by THQ Nordic. It was basically released on May 25th, 2021 on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and as well as Windows. It's an action RPG game. It's got a little bit of elements of everything that we'll kind of get into. It's basically a third-person perspective game where there's no people around. It's just creatures, and they're all kind of mutated, hence the name Biomutants. So we'll kind of get into what this game's about and see what everybody's thoughts are under this. But let's go with, let's throw this one over to Nick first, since I believe he probably made it the furthest in this game out of anybody on our group. So Nick, what are your first impressions of Biomutant?
Well, just like the ramen, it's okay. This game is it's okay. Like, it's not bad. It's not great. It's just okay. It can be boring at times. I think, and some people may disagree, but I think the combat is boring. I feel the combat is just it's really more of a button mash than anything. They try to throw in combos and various things like that, but I always feel myself doing the same combo over and over again, and that seems to get the job done. So even though there are other aspects of combos and various things you can do, it feels like if you just repeat the same series of buttons, you're going to get through most combat encounters just fine. The open world, this is an open world game. It's big, expansive open world. It's a beautiful looking game. Graphics are great. There's just nothing out there. There's big expanses in this game that have nothing in them. There's just, maybe some trees or some foliage and stuff or rocks or whatever, but there's nothing out there. You'll find like spots on the map that they do have stuff. And like you said, it's an RPG. It's a looter combat game. And, the loot, for me, most of the time, half the loot I find seems to be worse than what I'm wearing, which is what I found at the beginning of the game. So that seems a little odd, especially for stuff that, that I'll pick up that's legendary. And it's worse than what I'm wearing, which may not be legendary. So I'm like, well, what's the point of a legendary piece if it's not any better than what I'm wearing? And it doesn't look any different, right? And a lot of the legendary pieces look the same as some of the other typical pieces. So it's got some weird, strange things with that, because when you think of legendary, stuff's glowing or some really cool outfit or, pair of pants or shirt or something. But, a lot of the legendaries are just legendary editions of the same piece of armor that you may have picked up as an epic or as a common. So other than that, the story is there. And we'll get into more aspects of the game, but I found that the funnest part of the game is fighting the world eaters. And I'm sure we'll talk about kind of the story elements, but there's a tree of life and these world eaters, these big monsters. And basically fighting those is the funnest part, really. The funnest part I found. The rest of it's just it's just okay. It's not a great game. It's not a bad game. It's just an okay game. But Shane, what did you think of this one? What did you think of Biomutant?
Oh my God. If I'd have to give it a numbered review, I was so bored. It was, like you said, it's not a good game. It's not a bad game. My biggest problem with the game is nothing about it was grabbing my attention. Everything was dull. From the very first moment you start your first little fight scene, through the first character you meet, through the first group fight scene, I was so bored. It was literally, I'm falling asleep. I jumped on 4 times today. I played maybe 10 minutes each time before it almost knocked me out. The game is so dull. Like you said, the world is beautiful. The characters are pretty interesting overall. As far as design wise, not character wise. The development of them that I've met so far. It's just boring. That is my hardest thing I have to say about it. It's just boring. It's hard for me to play that game. I cannot find anything about it that makes me want to play forward at all. But I pushed through and I pushed through and I pushed through as hard as far as I could get. And honestly, it just dragged my soul down. It was that bad. As far as entertainment, it's just nothing about it grabbed me at all. But I can complain about it more later. Russ, what about you, buddy?
I pretty much can't disagree with everybody. I don't know that I got the least amount done. And Shane may have fell asleep a few times more. So he might got a little bit less done. But for me, initially this game reminds me of like if Watership Down, and some bio movie and comic book strip had a menage a trois. This is what would come out of it. Like it would be a baby of that. It's like, it's got some aspects of all that tribes. They've got some things and the combat is a little button mashy. Nick's pretty much taken the words out of my mouth. When we first started doing the tutorial, I was like, okay, there's going to be some strategy to it. Kind of like, I've talked about this game a lot, the Ghost of Tsushima, where you have an actual strategy. You're trying to dodge, you're trying to block. It almost seems as though there's one or two combos that work for every single thing, no matter what class you are. And there's no customized abilities to different classes. It's almost, you're kind of doing the same wash and repeat stuff. That's the only kind of misfortune about the game. The storyline's not terrible. Like you said, it's okay. It's like, you sit there and you got beef ramen, you got chicken ramen, and you got shrimp ramen. You're like, well, I'm just gonna go with the chicken ramen because at least I know what that tastes like, and it's okay. And that's about what this game is. It's okay for something that we saw, I think maybe 8 or 9 months ago at on one of our showcases. We had a little bit of excitement because it seemed like it was going to be it looked very, very good. The game looks very, very good, but they don't have much to it. It's unfortunate. As you progress in the game, and as Nick and Patrick will talk, there are some elements in the game that may be a little bit more interesting than others, but I don't know if it's enough to, maybe you mix the beef and the chicken together a little bit. I'm not really sure. But Pat, what about you, man? Where are you at with the game?
Yeah, I don't dislike the game, but I don't thoroughly enjoy the game. It's about as middle of the road as you can get with any game. Because I found that I wanted to play it, and I would go in there playing it, and more often than not, instead of doing the main quest, I would just be running around the open world looking at everything and seeing where I could go. And, I spent a couple hours one day just running around the map and looking at crap and accidentally stumbling on stuff. And then when I started going back to the story, I'm like, why is this just a huge open waste of space out here? Can't do anything. And then, when I came back and I get the quest, it sends you out there to go do something. So the game, I don't know, it's just okay. It's not great. It's not bad, but I couldn't see putting more than a couple hours into the time when I would sit down to play it. I'd put an hour to, I'd get into it for like an hour and 2 hours. And I'm like, all right, I'm kind of bored. Because combat is, as Dick said, is boring. You basically, they want you to build up these waifu or whatever they call them powers, Wung Fu powers or whatever in your combat, but it doesn't work because you have to build up on 3 different abilities. You have to use 3 different types of combos to build up to. And I find myself most of the time focusing on my main weapon combo over and over and over, as Nick said. So by now, I already know that it's dodge, melee attack, ranged attack. And that's all I do because that builds my combo. And my combo is what does all my damage. And it depends on the weapon you're using. It changes your combo. So what the game wants you to do is it wants you to weapon swap. It wants you to go from like range to melee back to range so that you can build up that big combo outlet, the Wofu combo or whatever they call it. And it's just, I don't find myself gearing towards that. It seems like a waste of my time. So I'm just going to sit here and do my little jumpy, dodgy, shoot my gun all over the place. And then the combat gets boring because it's that over and over and over. And you can't actually target enemies. You're just kind of shooting in their general direction or swinging in their general direction. And hopefully you're pointing to the target that you want, because sometimes the way the creature jumps and does these little spin dodges is just, you end up 180 degrees facing the wrong way. And you're like, I wanted to kill that guy who's now shooting me in the back, you know? So I have a lot of gripes with the game. It does look pretty. The nighttime is kind of crappy. I don't know what it is, but the bloom effect in nighttime seems really bad in the game. It washes out all the colors and everything rather than having like a nighttime effect. It seems like the main storyline has the best mechanics, the taking over the fortresses and the fighting the world eaters, but all the side junk and all the exploration is like, they treat it like it was third party of a third party. Not even, it's, you know, it's like, hey, we got to get this game out the door. Let's just throw all this crap in here and move on, because it's just a little bit of everything. The narrator was kind of funny, but the narrator gets annoying after a while because, you know, it's just, to put it in perspective, every time you're talking to an NPC character, they speak their little whatever language it is. So you have to listen to them go through their little made up language dialogue. And then the narrator paraphrases the entire conversation for you. And then you're like, okay, so I'm watching every conversation twice. I'm watching it live while the creature's talking, and then the narrator paraphrases it for you. And you're just like, all right, I'm over this. So it may seem like I'm being overly harsh on it, but we're pretty hyped on it. I thought it was going to be a good game, but it's got a lot of just, this game's meh. It's just generic, you know, and that's how it's going down. Is it's just, I'm not ready to be done with it yet. But I'm also not like chomping at the bit to get back in there and play some more.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of the mechanics, a lot of the things they chose from the, you know, the light and dark aspect, the combo aspect, the, like you were just describing with the voiceover, the narrator. It seemed like all those choices that they made to try to make the game different or unique or cool or whatever they were going for, it was almost pointless. I mean, the narrator thing, like I said, it got annoying. You hear wappa, wappa, wappa for 5 seconds, and then you hear this British guy coming across. You know, they should have just gave these NPC characters actual, you know, voices and just ditched the damn narrator, in my opinion. Like you guys said with the combo, you can basically do the same damn thing over and over, and you're going to get the same effects. The light and dark, now you guys got further than I did, most definitely. Did you guys notice any kind of benefit or, you know, negativity or positivity from going light to dark? Or I don't know how you guys played. I went dark because I just had a feeling that might make the game less boring. I was wrong, but I was hoping. How did you guys feel about the light dark thing?
Well, the light dark changes the end game scenario for you. So light or dark, I guess I should say, depending on who you side with in the beginning, kind of lends towards that, but also has an effect on your psi abilities. So if you go light, you lock out the dark psi abilities and vice versa. But those are about the only differences I've seen in the game, is it locks out that stuff.
But again, there's another, then again, there's another meh point of the game, is that the dark and light really don't lend to a whole lot, you know, throughout the game, minus losing abilities on one side or the other. It's like almost like the language, or at least the speaking in it. It's like, well, they only wanted to pay one voice actor, so let's wampa 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 everything, and you know, let's give our gaming, or let's give our customer a little bit more to think about to pick between light and dark. I mean, yes, they do have some differences, but at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, we've done this before.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely right. Did you guys like find anything that was just, that gave the game any hope? I mean, of not being meh? Because I mean, we're all on the exact same page of that. Was there anything that made you, well, at least they did this pretty cool? Because I found nothing to redeem the meh status.
No, I went dark, and my guy says I'm maximum dark, so I'm full darked out, which doesn't seem to do anything.
So you what? Now you look like an angry beaver running
no,
around?
I look the same. So it's not
Yeah.
like Knights of the Old Republic. You don't look any different than you did in,
But who
My
did you
guy
side
looks-
with? The Myriad or the Jing?
the Jengu. So they're the dark.
So you
side
picked a
people.
different one. I got you. Yep.
Yeah. But the, and we talked about it before. They have telekinesis powers and they have biogenetic powers or something like that. And those, you can pray at these altars to get psychic powers or psych points or whatever to put into your telekinesis or your psych powers or whatever. And then you can find these little containers and these little plants that shoot out these bugs or something like that you kill, and you get these little biotic points that you can put into those. And these are different skills. So these are like your magical abilities that you use your key with. And you basically can do stuff like telekinesis, or you can turn yourself into like a rock or something like that, or do this like mushrooms that you can pop up out of the ground, and this thunderbolt that you can shoot down, or this ray of dark energy if you're going dark that you can shoot down from the skies and stuff like that. And so far I've found those to be pretty much useless. They don't really do that much damage. They don't seem to really you can throw out a lot of them, but they don't seem to do. Like we said at the beginning, doing your main combo, you're going to output the most damage with that. So doing these psychic abilities or these, bio abilities that you can unlock don't do as much. You think they'd be big and powerful, and they're really not that powerful. And I find myself half the time forgetting that I even have them. And I've unlocked like 3 of them, right? And put them on my shortcut bar. But I found like I just don't ever use them. They take too long to kick off. And then I found that if you get hit while doing them, it just cancels it. So it's like they're pretty much pointless in doing. So, and it's unfortunate because some of the, magical powers that you have or that you find or you can unlock seem pretty cool, but they don't seem to have any use to them. This game is pure, like, either your route to go in this game, and it's unfortunate, and that's one of the unfortunate things about it, is your route to go in this game is melee. That's it. Melee. You're going to do your most damage output with melee and sometimes range, depending on if you find a good gun. But really, just between those two, that's it. And it's going to be cycling the same combos and just doing melee and ranged. And you might as well just forget about all the psychic powers and all that crap, because it ain't going to help you at all, as well as just melee and that. And that's unfortunate because, like I said, some of those some of those magical powers, it'd be cool if you integrated like some of those magical powers into your combos and stuff like that, but they don't. It's just a spell that you do, that you trigger, that you can pull off, by holding down the trigger and going to your shortcut bar and saying, okay, I want to do this. But pulling them off takes too long. And some of them are kind of immediate, but they just, like I said, they get canceled out if you get hit, and getting hit is pretty abundant because everybody locks to you, all enemies do, and they're constantly in your face. So with them being constantly in your face, your only option is just to melee it back. That's really it. Right. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and I've only seen, like, in my opinion, 2 psi abilities are even worth it. And one of them is complete dark side psi, and that's the one that does the AoE, like Phasma from the sky, just boom, AoE. And then the light side Icewind, which basically is a giant crowd control, because oftentimes they'll throw you in with a group of like 4 or 5 or 6 enemies, one big enemy and like 4 or 5 smaller enemies. And sometimes there's just too much, because there's some of them are shooting and some of them are jumping up on you while you're trying to use psi abilities. So I found the ice ability was about the only one on the light side that was worthwhile, because it would give you a pseudo crowd control temporarily. So it would freeze all the enemies in place, so I could just beat the crap out of one real quick, whittle one down, and then go to town on the others, So, and those were the only 2 that I thought were worthwhile. All the rest of them, as you said, takes too long. And what I did when I started is I initially started the Psi Freak, which is the mage, which is supposed to be using the Psi abilities. And I quickly nixed that in the butt, because I'm like, this guy sucks. He's just getting beat on all the time, so I can't cast anything. And, it just wasn't working out very well for me. So I ended up swapping over to the Deadeye, which is the gunner / 2-handed sword one, and ended up playing mostly with that. And as Nick said, all I do is my gunner combo. I just do my gun combo, because then it does my crane critical hit, which just unloads like a third of the clip into the enemy real quick. And I'm like, well, he's almost dead. So I'm just going to keep doing that over and over, and so it does get really boring.
Yeah, I cannot find anything in that game so far that just makes me, want to play the game. I mean, everything about it screams it should be fun, but it's like they just cut short and they made bad decisions on too many things. And that sucks because, like you said earlier, we all were, kind of excited for this game because it looked cool. It looked pretty. It looked like it could be fun. And the trailers and stuff they showed off, even the gameplay they showed off, it was like, man, it could be pretty cool. It's not. It's just meh. Like that's the theme of the game. Meh. And I don't know. I'm pretty disappointed.
And maybe Nick can help along. Maybe Patrick can help along with this. But for me, one thing that I'm not a terrible gamer, but when it comes to games like this or games of reactionary things, I like to have a little, like, we usually have a good warning system, whatever it is, whether it's the guy flashing or a guy like raising up his arm at a certain level or something like that. Here, I felt with this game that maybe I was missing a lot of indicators that could possibly help me not button mash. I mean, are they prevalent, guys, or am I missing it? Is there something I'm missing within that?
Yeah, I agree with Russ. I had the exact same problem. So what were we missing?
I mean, they do have like perfect dodge modifiers and stuff like that. Like if you do perfect dodge, it slows down time and stuff like that. This game does have that. And you have to look out for the indicators, which is like the lightning bolts off the head type thing. And you just dodge it perfectly and it'll slow down time. So you can just get off another attack while they're all in like slow-mo stuff. So there is that type of stuff and in this game, just like everything else, but it has perfect dodge. I don't think it has perfect parry. I don't think there's a parry in here. If there is, I don't use it.
There is a parry.
There is a parry.
I don't.
And
Yeah.
if you parry, so parry can be useful too. If you parry, they will have an icon above their head if you actually perfectly parry them, showing the X button, and then that allows you to come in and start walloping on them, especially the big guys. You'll get on their backs and stuff and start smacking them, and then from there you have to hit. For the Xbox, you have to hit left bumper. I'm assuming PlayStation's probably L1, and you'll do like this kind of jump up in the air kind of attack move on them, and it does a lot of damage. But perfect parry is kind of like, I mean, the problem with it is it's so sporadic, and like there's so many enemies attacking you at once. Unless you're a one-on-one fight, it's kind of hard to pull those off because you got so many people attacking you at one time. And but when you do, it does a lot of damage. But that's pretty much it. And like Pat said, you can't do the perfect dodge where you dodge out of the way and it slows down time and stuff. And there is a button icon. The B button will pop up when that happens. And if you hit it during that time, that will happen. It's a short window, but you will see it come up. So those are the main things. But what Patrick said at the very beginning is exactly true for this game. If you follow the main storyline and forget everything else, this game's pretty fun. The main storyline is the best part of the game. The stuff that you do, taking over the tribes, fighting the world eaters, all that stuff is probably the best parts of the game, really. The exploration, the side quests, combat are probably the worst parts of the game.
Agreed. Yep. I definitely could, leave that type of stuff. So the game leaves a lot of stuff to interpretation, but there's just too many button mashing combos to memorize them all. And so it's one of those things where I'm like, well, I'm going to memorize the combo that I'm going to use over and over. And I don't care about this Wong Fu, building up Wong Fu attacks. I've yet to get off those with any consistency because I can't get the combos all down because I'm too busy paying attention to what's going on and all the enemies surrounding me that I can't be like, okay, I need to do XBY or XB trigger, swap over to my sword and then do a YYX combo or something. I just don't, it's like, there's too many enemies and too much crap going on for me to focus on that.
Yeah. Let me ask something. Which character models did you end up having? Because there was one in particular I was wondering if anybody got. The one that looked like his Moomba and Dada were, brother and sister. That one with the weird teeth and crap. Because I was kind of disappointed with that inbred looking thing. And really all the character models. The only one that looked good is the one you saw in the trailers. And that was kind of disappointing too. because I was excited. It's like, oh, cool. You can, kind of make your own, but you don't really. And it looks like crap. I really was disappointed with that part too.
Well, you can somewhat make your own in a way.
Mm.
I don't like the way that at the beginning of the game, you get to pick just like any RPG, you get to pick your different stuff, like the look of your character, stats, and various things. I don't like the way that they workflowed that portion of it, because they basically made you pick a breed, which the breeds had, they kind of had a synopsis of what the breed was and what they're good at. Whether they're good as meleeers or shooters or psi powers and various things. And then on the right-hand side, it show you stats. And you're like, okay, well, maybe I want to be a mage. So I'm going to pick one with a breed with high intelligence. But then the next step is, okay, great. Now pick your stats. Which is like, well, then why did I pick the breed? Like, why did I pick a breed that had certain stats if I can just change the stats how I want them to be? So that was just kind of an odd thing. And then you also think about the look, because every breed has a different look. And you're like, oh, okay. But then it gets to the point in the flow where it goes, okay, now change your look. And it's like, well, then I can look like any of the breeds. So what was the point of the breed part? Because that doesn't seem to have any effect on everything else I'm choosing. It was a really weird thing. I think they should have just went into like a character customization, and then, maybe like a class, because class is like at the very end, I think. Where they should have went into, because they have you pick your stats before they have you pick your classes, if I remember, which seems like an odd, you think you'd pick your class, or was it class first?
It was class first,
Yep.
but like you said, if you didn't read through the topics of what they were saying, then you were screwed when you went to go pick your stats. You really needed to pay attention to that. Or if you had like one has a little bit, extra bonus to something if you do this. If you didn't pay attention to that stuff, you're not going to build the right character that you want. But again, it's like that light and dark thing. If you're allowed to change everything and anything you wanted to change, what's the point of having it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's like a lot of the things that they did that they thought were going to be cool or unique or whatever, they just didn't do them right. It really disappoints me
because put too much into it.
Yeah, it really disappoints me because the gaming years so far has been pretty rough and been pretty thin. I mean, It Takes Two has still been the best game I've played so far this year. And that says a lot. We play a lot of games, but that is a fantastic game. But we haven't had any really good, AAA games or anything like that. And this game comes out, we were all excited for. To a point, because it may not have been everybody's game in this group, but it was something that we all thought was going to be pretty good, though. And it turned out it wasn't. And that's this year, I'm kind of worried about if this is the rate we're going to go. I mean, if we're seeing games that come out we had hope for, and then they turn out like this.
Well, I mean, it is year 2 of the COVID pandemic stuff. I mean, so you're going to get, I'm assuming, and this is how I feel. I feel at some point they had grander schemes of ways to do things, but at some point, the developers corporate group had basically said, what is it? Experiment 101's corporate management basically said, we got to put something out, guys. We need to make some money. And so they had to wrap everything up. I mean, the game is relatively bug free. I haven't run into any bugs that I was aware of that I've seen. I don't even think it closed down on the dashboard on me once yet so far. So, it's relatively bug free and it plays well. It's just boring combat, repetitive combat.
Yeah.
The main story is the best part of the game, and all the other stuff is just too encumbersome. I mean, the game has crafting, but oh my God, getting through the different menus of crafting is like, it's like a freaking, what's the old, machine that's the old suicide machines.
Oh God, yeah. I can't think what that thing's called.
But basically it's like a giant, like go here, go there, look at this, look at that, and that was going to mention this too, Nick. When you were talking about the legendary things that you find were worse than the things that you made, that's the intention of the game, and that's purposeful. They even said that's purposeful. They want you to disassemble that legendary item and get that legendary piece off of there to add it to your current armor set, because every armor that you get, every armor and every weapon that you actually eventually craft, you can add add-ons to it to make it better. And the beginning set could be your best because it's the one you spent the most pieces in. So it could be, you go from uncommon, you go to common to uncommon, exceptional, legendary type stuff. So adding more items onto the armor makes it better. So they want you to disassemble that piece and take that legendary piece out and put it in the armor that you've got, or that weapon that you've got to make it better. So that's what their intention is. And there's just so much. And I think Nick's right. There's just too much in this game is what it is. I mean, you can craft weapons and you can add additional components on your weapons and armor. And then you run into this balloon in the city and you're like, I can upgrade weapons and armor at the balloon station. What is this? And they're throwing like everything at you. It's like they threw the whole entire house at you and then said, here's a bunch of extras. We're going to throw in the marble floors, the marble cabinets, the hot tub, the pool. They just threw it all on top of you and said, see ya. Because they don't really explain a whole lot of it. And by the time they do lean into explaining it, you've heard the narrator's voice so many times. You're just like, I wish he would shut up. And I'm just next through his voice.
Yeah, and that's pretty bad. You're right. I mean, they throw so much in the game, but it still feels like it's boring. I mean, with that much in it, there should be something in there to capture you. Even if you don't like the combat, you could like something else.
It's because the amenities that were added were the base level of the amenities. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's like whereas we had another game of some sorts that maybe had a great crafting system, right? Well, we put the crafting system in here, but it's the regular kind. Or if it's like, a brand new faucet, well, this one you can't touch to start it. You can only turn it one way. It's like the old ones that are in the apartments from 1983. I mean, it's kind of what the game's got. It's got a lot of that, but it doesn't necessarily do anything well, but it has it in there.
Let me ask you all this. Would you want a sequel if they were to listen to this show, address all of our quips and complaints? Do you think this game could be worthy of a sequel if they were, to fully come out and say, we're going to address all your complaints, your comments, your thoughts, and we're going to make a sequel that, that gives you that hope that you had originally for the game? Would you want them to try another one?
Yeah, I would. I think it would. I think they could. I think they, they got a good foundation here, right? I mean, the game is okay, but it's not bad. So if they were just to take certain elements and kind of change them around and kind of like, like Russ said, don't give us the basics of everything, but kind of, build up those aspects of the game and make like exploration and crafting and various things just more expanded and kind of streamline everything. I think Biomutant 2 could be could possibly be go from an okay game to man, that's pretty good, or a great game, So I would like to see more. I mean, especially, I don't think I've heard of this company before, this developer. I don't know if this is their first game or not, but if it is their first game, I haven't seen any other games by them, but it doesn't mean they haven't made other stuff. It's a pretty good first go at a game, so I could see them making something pretty cool with Biomutant 2, maybe.
All right, Pat, what'd you find?
No, I was just gonna say I would, I don't know, I would probably give them another shot. To be honest, I would. I'm having enough. I'm having enough fun with it that I could probably keep going and be just fine.
Right, you, Russ.
I wonder what it would be like if they made it turn-based. Like if they had it to where you're roaming around, and when you get into combat, it's a turn-based combat system with all the chi and all that stuff that goes around with it. I wonder if that might clean up the game a little bit, because the combat is kind of button mashy. I mean, maybe there'd be some strategic portions in it within turn-based. I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I actually like that. I mean, I'm older school, RPG, but I kind of like the idea of the turn-based. I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah, I think Nick's right. I think this company probably, I think you're all right. The company probably does deserve a shot at a sequel if they chose to, but they would have to announce that, yeah, we're going to take all the criticisms and complaints and whatever, and we're going to address them the best we can. But I mean, there's enough there for Pat to play through and be happy. That's great. Honestly, I am surprised I am as hating on this game as I am. and it's really just down to the boredom of it. Yeah, the combat's fine. But if I'm not in combat, I'm falling asleep. It's, it's got Game Meh of the Year award. That's it. That's all it's got going for it.
Well, the nice thing is the developer did come out recently, and supposedly the first patch for this game is supposed to be quite big, and they've heard the concerns of the players, and they're supposed to change up the combat in some way. I don't know they haven't really specified how, but they've heard that, I guess the combat's kind of annoying, and the narrator talks a little too much. Even though you can reduce how frequently the narrator talks in the options, they're supposed to be doing some changes like that, some big changes with the game. So we'll have to see what changes they make in the first patch, and it may, that first patch that comes out may end up making it better. Maybe we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'll play it again if they come out and say the patch, for what you're talking about with the combat and everything. I'll give it another go just to see if it livens things up a little bit, But
Right,
other than that,
yep, they heard the comments on the combat and the comments on the narrator. Because at first it's funny. I mean, a lot of stuff is kind of funny. They try to do a lot of play on words. The game, they basically, obviously the creatures are now semi intelligent in the game because they're basically supposed to be like our planet. It's planet Earth, or a planet resembling that had a humanoid species that are now long gone. They destroyed the planet, and now there's mutated creatures. And so, but everything's got like they got like a kiddish name to it now. The trains are now chugga chuggas. You run into an old guy in the game and what do they call him? Out of time or whatever.
Out of date.
Out of date. Yeah, out of date.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, so just fun. They just try to play on words like that, but it gets old really quick because the narrator just beats that crap into the ground, and you're just like the way back when, out of time, and the whatever stuff. It's just a bit too much at times. They try to be funny, but they browbeat it into the ground too much, I think.
Yeah, you're right. One thing I would like. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I'm enjoying it, and I plan to finish the game, but the game's only got like 10 to 13 hours worth of complete story time if you negate all the side stuff. So.
I would like to see them, if they're going to do this whole narrator thing, they need to take a cue from Phoenix Rising. I think the way they did the narrator on that one was fantastic. If they want to go for kind of a comical route, they need to watch what they did there, because that was a good part of the game. That was one of the parts of the game I enjoyed, was the narrator from that one. And the combat was fantastic, but that's just me.
Right. And I believe from a little bit I've played of this game, and Nick, you could probably confirm because you got a bit more into it, the whole world just scales with you. You can never out-level an area. The whole world, it's open world, but everything scales with your level.
Yeah, it seems that way. I've gone further, quite far north, and fought enemies there, and they seem to be around the same level I am. So
cool. Yeah, I'm not running across enemies that are lower level than I am.
Yeah.
No, yeah, they're around the range of it seems to be I think I'm level 20, so I think the range I've fought in is maybe like two levels below or above mine. You might find some that are a little bit further down, or some that might be a little bit higher, but they're not much. It's usually a two level difference typically.
Well, cool.
Well,
so for me,
I'd give
this
it
is
$20.
a sale game. It's a sale
$20
game
max.
for me. I would have paid half price for it. I would have paid 30. It's a 50%, a 50-60% for me.
I'll do 30 if you give me a 20% coupon.
If you give them $10 off.
Right, $10 off. I would pay $40 for this game probably. I don't think it's worth 60, but that's just me.
I'm with Pat on that one. 40. 40 with the amount of gameplay that it has in it. Maybe with maybe some polished things, maybe it is worth 60, but for the amount of time that Nick and Pat have gotten so far, and the amount of time that I will keep it installed and give this a chance once I get back from vacation. But I do like the premise, and I do kind of like what the possibilities are. I'm actually more interested in this patch. That's something I did not know about, but I would go with the $40.
Yeah, I would probably be with the $30 range for me, half price. So, it's like I said, it's an okay game, and I am still playing it, and I probably will finish it too because I've already beaten. There's 4 world eaters. I've already killed 3 of them, and so I got 1 to go, and I don't know what's after that. But so I'm probably getting close to the end of the game, so I'll probably finish it off. But still, I mean, at $30, I would have felt like I gotten my money's worth. At $60, it doesn't seem like there's enough there to keep my attention for $60 worth. But I would have paid half price.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Anybody want to say the last words before we wrap this one up?
Yes. If you suffer insomnia, put about 10 minutes into this game, sleep like a baby.
All right. Well, I think we're all off to find the ramen packets that weren't put in the ramen to add a little flavor back into this and go find something else. So we're all going to head on out. So if you've stuck around this long, make sure you like and subscribe to this videos and click the bell for notifications so that you can get updates on when we post new videos. We hope to catch you in the next episode.
See ya.